Of course, of course. Well, dude, I'm so excited to have you on. I'm very very honored you're coming on the podcast because honestly, indie basketball in general is this entire subset of people who just sit right in the middle of loving, indie rock music, whatever, and also basketball. And I am like that, and I get the feeling that you are also like that.
I as well, although probably not as good at the music part as you. I do what I can.
For sure.
I like
I
it.
always, because I'm a fan of all fantasy everything. So occasionally I'll hear you drop a band, and I'm like,
I,
you know,
I sprinkle it in.
for
It's hard with the boys aren't quite as into indie rock
sure.
as I am. Sean will dip his toe in every now and
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
David will too, actually, to be fair.
for sure. That's why I feel
Um,
like, when you drop a Japanese breakfast reference or something, I'm like,
yeah,
I hear you.
that's right.
One of the
Do you want me
one
to?
band. Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Do I record on my end? Should I record on
No, I
my end?
mean I'm good. I'm recording the Zoom, so like
Right. All right.
as long as
Perfect.
you got your mic plugged in, we're good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Um, but I was gonna say one band I do know you might be a fan of is the band Pup.
Love pup. Oh yeah,
Yes,
love pup.
because that came up. So actually, the first episode of this podcast it was actually a fantasy draft format.
Very good.
And I asked Steven from Pup because he very much is he's Raptors and he's obviously in the band.
It
I
could
asked him
not
to
be
be
more at the
on.
intersection. Yeah.
Yeah. And he declined because he felt out of respect to you, he shouldn't do it.
What a mensch. We did a show. I mean, obviously he should have. Has he done it since?
Not yet, but I'm gonna get him for a one-on-one conversation at some point.
Yeah. Tell him you should do a fantasy draft with him, and then I'll pop on
Oh,
unannounced onto the Zoom, and
incredible.
I'll
I
and
love
I'll
it.
and I'll hold his feet to the fire. No, we did the live AFE up in Toronto.
Yeah.
We hung out with Steven a bunch, and he like showed us around. It was great, man. He's such a good dude.
So
And
good.
I was like
Nice
the whole
guy.
time you're like trying not to be starstruck because I'm like, fuck. You know?
For sure. Um, so I like to kick off, on the more on the music side.
Yeah.
And
Are we podcasting right now?
we're podcasting, dude.
Oh,
I'm
beautiful. All
going
right,
from the
great.
beginning. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I was
Uh,
not starstruck by Steven. If anything, I was like, remind me what band you were in again.
it's on
And
record. You can't avoid it. It's fine.
I was cooler. I was the cooler person in the situation.
It seemed maybe you both were starstruck of each other, which
It was
is
a
just
mutual admiration society.
yes,
We
absolutely.
used to
That's the way it should
play
be.
what is it? DVH? Is that the song?
DVH.
DVP
Oh,
Parkway.
yes, yes, yes.
We used to the first time we toured as the podcast in 2019, where we were like, it was messy. We were getting like ripped up every show, just like hammered, going out, like like throwing beer on the crowd and all that. We used to play DVP. That was the song we played before we came out because it's got like amazing energy to it. It's just like
Excellent hype music.
excellent hype music. And our producer at the time, Marissa, is like from Toronto, and like she
Yeah.
was so stoked that we were listening to a Toronto band. Yeah, and then it's just they rule, man. Steven's awesome.
there's
That whole
there's
band is
so
awesome.
many. I feel like they are like kind of like the headquarters for people like me. There's lots of bands and there's lots of
Yeah,
they all go for Raptors because it's like that's our that's the team.
of course. It's weird. I was in Vancouver doing stand-up, and even in Vancouver, it's all Raptors stuff because it's just like this. It's basketball nationalism
No
up
one's
there.
hanging on to the Grizzlies.
I wanted to tell people your closest geographic team is the Portland Trailblazers. Embrace it.
Right.
Get on board right now. You don't have to root for the Raptors. They got Scotty Barnes. We got Scoot Henderson. Climb
Yes,
on
of
board,
course.
dude. Climb
Did
on
did
board. The
uh
future.
did Portland like grab up a lot of the Sonics fans?
No, not
They just
really.
stayed with the Sonics.
I kind of think like I think there's two schools of Northwest sports fans.
Yeah.
There are the people who sort of treat it like a buffet. And because I like went to high school and stuff with a bunch of people who were like Mariners fans and Seahawks
Yeah, yeah.
fans and Blazer fans, right? Um, and then there's the people who hate the other city. And and I don't hate Seattle, but I hate Seattle. I'm one of those
Sure.
people where I'm like, I'm not going to root for the Mariners. I'm not going to root. I'm certainly not going to root for the fucking Sounders, and I'm not going to root for the Seahawks, Huskies, any of that shit,
No
because
way.
that's Big Brother up the
Yeah.
road. It is the once culturally relevant, now, like neo-capitalist nightmarescape, devoid of any soul or culture
Right.
on beautiful Puget Sound. And we're scrappy little Portland, Oregon, and I'm not going to get involved in any of their Michigas up there. So
Oh
I
yeah.
was one of those people who didn't want anything to do with it. And I think there was always, even when the Sonics first left, a feeling that like they'll be back one day.
Right.
Yeah.
They
So you don't want to
still
like,
might be back. I still feel that.
I think they're gonna. I think
I
like in the
think a
next
couple
3 years.
years.
Yeah. I think we're gonna get the Sonics back. And whatever Vegas is, whatever LeBron names Vegas,
Right.
something corny. Yeah.
You gotta wait. Whenever LeBron retires, that's a year or two later, he's in
He's in. It's gonna happen, and it's gonna
for sure.
be obnoxious. It'll be, I guess it'll be good. It's a fun reason to go to
I mean,
Vegas.
they Seattle misses basketball like so much.
So much. And like I all joking aside, that is like a great sports city. They really do
Yeah.
come out for like the Kraken, even they come out
Hmm.
like hard. Um the Sounders, like for sure. And when the
Yeah.
Mariners are good, they like Ma- it's a fun place to see sports. Also, the
Absolutely.
summer's beautiful in the Northwest.
For
But
sure.
that's baseball, yeah.
I'm waiting for Portland to get a baseball team, man. I think Portland deserves one.
My entire life, we've been talking about it. I did a presentation. It was either in college or I think it was in college, because we actually get less rain than several major league cities during the Major League Baseball
Right.
season. Portland's rain is like all the time they're not playing baseball, and it's constant. It never stops raining from like October until
Yeah.
May. But from May to October, it like rains less than like Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Baltimore, all these places.
Plus, everyone's got
So
retractable roofs these days. Doesn't matter.
everybody does. Yeah, they need to put a baseball team that like now instead, like I mean, we have a team called the Portland Pickles, and they
Mhm.
rule. They're like a summer
Right.
league wood bat team, and like people come out for it. It's great. It
For
would
sure.
be,
And
yeah.
Oregon college teams have great baseball programs. My wife's cousin actually played for Oregon State, so I know like Beaverton is
Oh yeah, Oregon
huge.
State is like
Yeah, they're
that. Well,
always good.
that's Corvallis. Just to be clear, they're
Corvallis,
the
you're right. You're right.
Beavers. We have several beaver-based locales in Oregon.
Yes. Yes.
But that's
I
like Pat Casey. That's like a really, really that's one of the best like programs in the country, right? He
for
must have been
sure.
good at
Yeah.
baseball.
I went to his wedding out there. It was in Sweet Home, Oregon.
Sweet Home. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Little
How,
town.
how was Sweet Home? How did you find it?
Uh, it, it was nice because it was the wedding was put up by the coach of Oregon State.
Pat Casey.
Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
we had it at his place, and it was like right on this little creek, and it was beautiful,
Oh, must have been beautiful. Yeah, gorgeous.
wonderful.
Yeah, there's certain Sweet Home, they're like there's nice parts. I mean, it's such a small town.
Yeah,
But
very
it's one of
small.
those where it's like, oh, it must be like where Gilmore Girls takes place. And it's like, well, if it's that, but I thought they were
Could
if
go
like they
either
were
way
cooking
here.
meth. They're cooking meth in some of those houses in Stars
Yeah,
Hollow.
right. Yeah, Oregon's great. Love Oregon. Oregon has a great music scene.
Great music
Um,
scene. I did my
and
first comedy album with Kill Rock Stars.
oh, awesome.
Because they were just like producing. I mean, obviously like Slater Kinney and all these amazing
Yeah, yeah,
bands.
yeah.
But then they started getting into comedy. And
One
they
of
were
my
like, "Do you want to do your album with us?" It was awesome.
yeah, that's awesome, man. One
Yeah.
of my, you know, white whales to come on this is Doug March from Built to Spill.
Oh yeah,
Because he's a Portland guy. He's a huge Blazers fan as well.
that's right. You
So
just gotta. You got. Is he? Have you been able to get in touch with him?
I've been talking with Sub Pop people to try
There
and,
you go. Yeah.
it's just like scheduling's not working out, but someday.
You should reverse course and go through whoever runs like the Trailblazers social media team and try it
Yes,
like with anybody. It's always gonna, like he's used to media requests coming through Sub Pop,
totally.
but if he gets like from like an email, Portland Trailblazers email
Right.
address, get
I got to
anybody. You
go through
get
them. Give me all the like feed them through the team with every team. That's what I got to do.
with every team. Yeah.
So one thing I've been doing lately with every guest that comes on, I like to have them recommend a song to add to this ongoing playlist I'm doing. Is there a song right now that you're particularly jamming to that you want to add?
That's a great question. And this can be the only parameter is that I'm really jamming to the song.
Yeah.
There's
And
no, it doesn't.
I'm trying to think too, because like I'm not gonna account. Some people like to account for flow, and I can tell you like the previous song,
I would
but
love that. I'm very into playlists. That
yeah,
is, hey,
uh,
the when I met my wife, the woman who is now my wife, we only knew each other through the internet,
mhm.
like Twitter and everything. And I was making mixtapes like back in high
Oh
school,
yeah.
burning CDs, into the Spotify era, like making playlists for girls and sending them to them. And I'd always had a crush on this woman from afar, but I was like, I have no opening. I don't know how to talk to her. And she tweeted like, I never lived in Brooklyn. Like I never got into indie rock because
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like I never had a cool like Brooklyn boyfriend when I lived in New York. And I slid into her DMs like, well, I never lived in Brooklyn, but I'm from Portland, which is basically the West Coast outpost of
Yeah.
Brooklyn. Uh so I sent her this playlist. It is like, oh, I still have it somewhere. It's like 5 hours of indie rock
Oh man.
that I sent to her, and I'm like, okay, like the die has been cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Brooklyn
That's just
Boyfriend.
that's how we, that's our love language, Like
Yeah.
it's so good.
85 songs, 6 hours and 6 minutes. I took special care to make it gender diverse because I didn't want to, you know what I mean? Like if
Absolutely.
sending it to a girl. Also you don't have to take, but if you just put good music on there, but I like made extra sure. Um, and heard nothing back for days because I was thinking like I sent it to her and she was like, "Oh, thanks, I'll
Yeah.
listen." And then expected like, "Oh, that Sharon Van Etten song was great. I really liked that." Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I do. Oh, I heard of Mitski, but I never listened to Mitski."
Right,
Like,
right.
it's something like that, and nothing, 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 nothing. And cut to like 3 months later, I was like, "Okay, she's clearly not feeling me because that could not have been a
Mhm.
more obvious opening move." And I asked her to come on All Fantasy Everything, my podcast. And she came on the podcast, and apparently she was like flirting with me the whole time. I had no idea. I was completely oblivious.
Yeah.
Um, we started texting afterwards, but just again in a very general way. I was like, "Thanks for coming on. When this whole like pandemic thing is over, you should come hang out with us. You seem like a good hang." Like
Yeah,
super not flirty
for
from
sure.
from me because I also didn't want her to think like I'm only using my podcast as a way to like open up a
I do
romantic
this all the
relationship.
time.
The way you're probably doing right now.
Absolutely. For
Yeah,
you, yeah, absolutely.
the chemistry's off the charts already. But and then like eventually like it turned into actual flirtation and we started
Uh-huh.
dating. We're married now, but I asked her, I was like, "What happened?" And she was like, "Oh, I have Apple Music and you sent it on Spotify."
In retrospect, that's a polite thing to not be like sorry about it.
Yeah. But she should have been like, "Oh, I saw," because I would have just written it down. I would have like maybe not, 85 songs, maybe like a
Right,
shorter
right.
one, but like if I never invited her on AFE, it never would
Yeah.
have happened. But I tried with a play, which is all to say, I'm very into making playlists.
Yeah. Did you
But what
did
go
you
on?
did you play any of those songs at your wedding? Did you have those like part of
Uh,
the play, like part of the mix?
we did our God. It's so like I don't know if this is like I don't find it embarrassing, but I am like aware of what embarrassing things are, and I don't know if this is like so like hipster Northeast LA, like I'm from Portland, like
Sure.
cliche, but our song is like Chateau Lobby Number 5 by Father John Misty,
Perfect.
which I love. And I like hired like a little a quartet to play it as we left and everything. It
I
sounded
mean, look
so
who you're
sweet.
talking to here. There's you're
It was
yeah,
so it was so nice. And like like that wasn't our first dance, but like that was our like it's we stepped on the glass, Mazel
sure.
Tov, and then like those horns and everything. It's so good.
Yeah.
Um so that was definitely on there and that ended
Awesome.
up becoming like our song and everything. So there were a few, and then I'm sure we played some of this on I think Bodies by Car Seat Headrest was on the
Hmm,
I
hmm.
snuck onto like our playlist for the dance floor.
Yeah.
Although it's real you got to think this is I'm going to go off on another tangent here. I apologize. I remember being at Bridgetown Comedy Festival early, probably like 2013, 2014. And it's going to sound like I'm throwing a comedian under the bus here, and maybe I kind of am.
That's
But
okay.
he's a wonderful dude, and he doesn't like basketball, otherwise he'd be great on this podcast. But he's a comedian who loves indie rock. Jonah Ray, who he's so cool. He
Hmm.
has amazing taste in music. He was DJing the after party. They would let comedians DJ the after party, and he would play all these cool songs.
Yeah.
And if the intention of the after party was to sit there and drink cocktails and talk to each other, he was crushing it. But like people wanted to dance.
Yeah.
But like, he'd be playing like some Fisher Spooner B-side, off of some like Japanese import. And
He's
all
playing
these like
Godspeed You Black Emperor.
exactly. And like not like the comedians are like, I don't know how to dance to this, so they're like, this is cool, you're cool, and he is, and the music is good. And if you ever want like a good, like if you're like, hey Jonah, what should I listen to? He'd give you like 10 great
For sure.
recommendations, but nobody was hitting the dance floor. A behavior he continues to perpetrate. I was at a
Right.
festival with him again this year. So I saw that and I was like, oh, I think that's how you're supposed to DJ a comedy party. So I filled a playlist with all these like I want people to think I'm cool songs and went up there and started playing them, and the dance floor was like eerie. There was nobody
Yeah.
on it. It was lonely. There was nobody on the dance floor. And Guy Branum, who like, because there had been a previous DJ, I took over and just killed the vibes. He comes dancing up to me all sweaty and was like, stop trying to impress people. Just play I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. And I did. And I was like, oh, and then like it was like you left a fucking sugar cube out at like
Right.
like next to an anthill. Like it was like like and then I was like, oh, this is what you do. You want to be a crowd pleaser a little bit. And you can every 10th song you can throw in something like
Yeah, you
that's
could
maybe a
test the
little out of
waters,
left field.
but you got to
You
bring
can
it back.
test the waters. Yeah. So that was like one of my like Bodies, which I just think is a great dance
For
song.
sure.
Was the one I snuck onto our wedding playlist.
Amazing.
So what is leading into what's on this playlist?
This playlist, the indie
Yes.
basketball playlist. What I think the last one might have been an MJ Lenderman song.
Sure.
I don't know if you've heard that album.
I have. It's great.
It's very good. Let me double check that it's the last song. Actually, so it's by a band called American Culture, was one of the last ones on there, which that one is actually kind of funky,
Okay.
but like it's like there's like a little bit of this like 80s new wave funk vibe going with it.
Okay.
You can kind of go a lot of directions without
You
whatever.
kind of, yeah, take that and go anywhere with it, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to think if I should go like newer, cooler, or just like one of my favorite. All right, I'm
Or
gonna
you
go
could just
like
180 it and just whatever you're feeling right now.
I'm going full. I'm going this isn't indie rock. This is like I'm fully going Jonah Ray on this.
Yes.
I'm going Turtles Have Short Legs by Can.
Awesome.
You know that
That's
one?
perfect.
Okay, great.
That's great.
I feel like that's like a fun. They were a band I heard oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on the LCD Sound System guy's name.
James Murphy.
James Murphy reference. And I
Yeah.
was like, I heard it over and over and over again. And I was like, all right, let me actually check this out. And I'd heard that Vitamin C song by them, I'm sure in like a bunch of different movies.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I like this song. And then I got like further into and I heard that Turtles Can Have Short Legs with its weird little like jaunty, like it sounds like Barry Lyndon is happening, like kind of piano. And then these like weird German dudes
stuff.
Yeah, boom, dun, 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 dun. And
Awesome.
then it's just a song about turtles having short legs. I love it. It's silly.
It's not pretending to be something
happy.
it's not.
It does exactly what it says on the tin, as they say. Yeah.
That's perfect.
All right, great.
I love that, I don't ever want this playlist to be like I don't ever want it to actually make sense. I want someone to go to the next song and be like, all right, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, that one's gonna
perfect.
People aren't gonna see that one coming, I don't think. But I think they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a great pick.
Yeah.
In terms of like more recent music, I kind of want to throw out there. I do this segment called Starting Five, where it's kind of like a top 5 rankings. I'm curious to know of what you've heard that's come out this year. What's your starting 5 albums from this year?
Well, you know what's wild is that like 2 of them just got released the other day.
Yeah.
This
Do you have enough time since Friday to
to have fully digested these? I am a really, really, really big Father John Misty fan. Like I've seen him live 5 times. Like I got my wife very into him. Obviously, that's the song that we left. Like our wedding song.
Yeah, yeah.
Saw him here in LA with the LA Philharmonic, which was like one of, or like
Beautiful.
the chamber orchestra, but it was like one of the best shows I've ever seen in my whole life.
Amazing.
And the Mahashma, Jesus Christ, Mahashma got his new album.
It's I want to say it's like Mashima or something like that.
It's Mahashman. Oh, gee, but
We are
hold on.
just destroying something right now.
Mahashmashana. It's Mahashmashana,
No
which
idea what it means.
it sounds like a Yiddish word describing an Indian food dish. I think it's Mahashmashana.
Uh-huh.
Um, I have probably listened to it all the way through just since Friday like 6 times
Oh
already.
man, amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. It's really beautiful. It's really
Hmm.
like I think he like is able to like grow with every album, but in a way that
Yeah,
doesn't
definitely.
lose that like element of who he is.
I mean, he's
Which
his whole career, he's just changed so much. Even when he used to go by just Jay Tillman, and he
Jay
was
Tillman
in
and with
the
the
post
Fleet
rock band
Foxes.
Sax and Fleet Foxes, and Saxon Shore was like a post rock band, and like yeah,
Yeah.
all over the place.
That first Fleet Foxes album is
So
what
good.
I will if like I need to simulate winter down here, which I do like all the time. Will you can live in LA? It's like it's a little chilly today, which is very nice, but it's
Yeah, there you
mostly
go.
like 70.
Right.
Um, I'll just throw that on. But that the
Okay.
first song, like Mahashmashana, like from the beginning, it's like I think it's long. It's like eight
Hmm.
minutes or something like that. And it's like lush and like it really like grows and then goes right into like She Cleans Up, which is this very like propulsive, fun, almost kind of feels like an 80s song. Like it
Sure.
feels
Yeah.
like I mean, you're probably better describing music than I am, but it feels like it almost feels like a Phil Collins song. It could be like
Oh,
from
if that
the
yeah, that makes
80s, right?
that makes a lot of sense for sure. I also love starting an album with a long song.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
It's a
It's like
bold
this is
move.
it is. And also to go from that to She Cleans Up,
Yeah.
which is like I think the first single he put out from it too. And
Yep.
it's also so much more accessible where it's
Right.
like, okay, it's gonna do both of these things.
If you can make it through this first song, then we're good.
Yeah, you got it right. Now, but then like what whoa, my
Oh,
power
oh
just went out.
no.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
I'm still here.
You're
I
still hit
think I
what?
might just unplugged. Oh, dude. Oh, I'm kicking a cord. Okay,
I
there we
feel like
go.
you're doing like a WWE entrance right now, and the Undertaker's about to come out.
Bong. Be funny if Sean and David were here when the lights came back on. Um, and that Screamland song on there too, I think is like really good and eerie. That dude
Cool.
can't like because I am now I still drink a little bit, but I'm like
Mhm.
a much cleaner person. But I have been like dude, a drunk party dude on drugs in LA.
Yeah,
And he captures that, I think, like better than
for sure.
anyone else doing it.
Absolutely.
He's great.
Okay.
Yes. So
Father
that
John
I think
Misty.
that and then the Kendrick album, which came out the same day.
Which is, did you see all the stuff about him releasing the album on the same day every year,
It's crazy.
or say the
It's
same year every time? It's
every
nuts.
year. It's the same day. Is it the same year every time, or is it the
It's
same
the
day
same year,
every
not the
year?
same day, but like this.
Oh, okay, okay. I misinterpreted it.
But there has been, I think, two or three times where it's been at the same, like this within a week of each other.
Yeah.
Just like
There,
the guy can't catch a break.
he cannot catch a break. People have been doing like remixes of their songs together too.
Oh, it's great.
I thought it's very. He's been tweeting too. He's been like, just
Yeah.
so he knows, I'm not the kind of artist who charts. He doesn't have to keep.
It's like when 30 Rock and Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip came out the same year. And then they're
Yeah,
like, well, both of us can't survive.
right. Except if they were both good shows.
Right.
Yeah. The this Kendrick album, I am like, I really like Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
I obviously, I mean, like, who doesn't?
Yeah.
He's the best rapper. I I I really got into rap through when I was like a kid,
Mhm.
through like, I don't know, like the most fun rap.
Yeah.
I like driving around with like the windows down, really fun beats. Like I really always liked Timbaland and like Pharrell production and everything. That was
Mhm.
like my favorite kind of rap. And a lot of the Kendrick stuff, a lot of his best stuff, like has been it's great lyricism and like amazing. He's great. He's such a good
Yeah.
rapper. but it's not often stuff I will listen to over and over and over again.
I agree with you.
You know,
Yeah.
because I think it's stuff that like demands your attention in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I thought
Not
Mr.
all of it.
Morale was very good, but I don't think I went back to it more than once.
That's exactly how I feel about it too.
Yeah.
Like it was like, great, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's songs on Damn that are like great, like DNA, you know what I mean? And
Right.
like Humble. Those are like those I kind of like the radio hits. Like
It's like
Good Kid,
watching a
Mad
Terrence
City.
Malick movie. Like
Yeah.
I'm not rewatching this for fun.
Right. It takes some work. You have to digest it.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought on this album, I think on GNX, like there is still that because like that's
Yeah.
the great thing about Kendrick Lamar is that like the songs that do capture your attention sonically a little bit more and like have a little more re-listenability are still like have complexity and depth to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They also just have like a beat that's a little more rewarding for what I really like. So
Uh-huh.
GNX is going to be my second one.
Perfect.
Whacked Out Murals is so good. Squabble Up, TV Off,
Uh-huh.
which has become
It's
a
it's
meme
a lot of
already.
the production on it is it's
Jack
almost like he's
Antonoff.
starting to like parody himself. Like
Yeah.
and you know that Jack Antonoff, he produced a lot of it too, which is the weirdest pairing that I never would have expected, but um honestly a lot of the beats remind me of like, you know, like early Eminem. Like they're kind of like silly.
He's kind of rapping like early Eminem on a few
Yeah,
of them.
yeah.
Him yelling out mustard is like that's a thing Eminem would do.
Right.
Dude, he's so weird. Some of the stuff that like he does with his cousin Baby Keem,
Right.
like some of those songs that they do together, they're just like truly weird songs.
I
And I
truly
really
I do wonder if he's just like, what can I do and they'll still like me.
I think there's a little bit of that. I think there's a
Yeah.
little bit of he's just a weird dude.
Yeah.
I think he's like a weird dude who happens to also not happens, but like he's a weird dude. He's the best rapper. He can do everything.
Right.
But like part of him is just weird. He just wants to wear like cowboy boots and like play weird characters on rap songs with his
Yeah.
cousin and just like have a good time. And those are some of my favorite songs by him.
It's
But
just like doing voices.
yeah, doing voices.
Yeah.
Like doing weird, like that's like what like doing Nicki Minaj type stuff on songs, you know? So
Awesome.
that
Yeah.
is that. I mean, those two, which
That
just
was a
came
hell of a
out,
weekend for sure.
hell of a weekend. And then I have to ask you a question. Did the Chapel Roan album come out this year?
Absolutely.
I gotta put that on there.
Yeah. It's been a
Oh,
great year for pop music.
holy shit, has it ever.
Yeah.
That thing I got like full disclosure, like 3 months ago, I do believe I thought her name was Chapel Roan.
Yeah.
Chappelle Roan.
Dave Chappelle Roan.
Roan.
Yes.
I thought it was I was like Chappelle Roan. I did not know how to pronounce her name. And all I knew was I think just the Hot to Go song
Mhm.
that my wife liked. And then I started like digging into it a little bit more and listening, and I'm like, oh, this is like all really good, really weird,
Right.
super catchy music. And like now, like 4 of her songs are on my like gym playlist.
Yeah. I mean, this is how dudes get into artists like Chaperone is. There's like the gay community is obsessed with it, and then my wife finds it through the gay community and like
Yeah.
loves it, and then my wife pushes it on me, and like that's the cycle.
That is the cycle. Yeah. Thank God for the gay community and wives. I guess this technically came out in 2023. So I guess I'm cheating here.
No, because she's up for Grammys for this
Oh,
year,
it
so
says it was released September 22nd, 2023, but
I'm
if
counting it.
okay, perfect. Okay, great. And I didn't get into it until very recently. So
Right, like most of us. Yeah,
yeah. It's just so fun, dude. It's
it
just
is.
such a fun
It's a
Pink
very
Pony Club,
deep, yeah, a very deep album.
super deep, great, like the live performances, I think like are are like just as good and then add like another like layer to it
Yeah,
of her music, which I is not
the
always the case
theatrical
when pop
element is
musicians
amazing.
perform
Yeah,
live. Yeah. Oh yeah, the theatrical, but even just sonically, it's like, oh,
yeah,
she's a really good live performer. Um, yeah, she rules. It's a
for sure.
And that album has been like, yeah, like I listened, I get like honestly like four of her songs almost every day
Yeah, yeah.
at the gym.
It's perfect hype songs.
So good. And then, all right, let's get to a little.
We got three.
I got three. I'm feeling good about my big three.
Yeah, you got your KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. So you got the big three.
I got to fill in my Rajon Rondo here, though. Got to fill him in. Um, okay, that the I have yet to dive into MJ Lenderman on his own,
Yeah,
but I did get into him through the Waxahachie album that came out this year.
that's easily in my top three of the year.
It's such a good album, and that song and Right Back to It is
Yeah,
like immediately such a great fucking song. One of my favorite. I have this tendency to get into like musicians after either they break up or die, and going back to like my dad. Maybe this is embarrassing. I don't give a fuck. My dad got me like Sublime's self-titled album. Probably on my like 12th birthday or something like that.
hell yeah.
Perfect time to get a Sublime album.
Right.
I'm still a big Sublime fan.
Yeah.
But I listened to it, and was like, these guys rule. When their next album coming out? And it was like, oh no. Luckily I
Oh
could go
yeah.
back in time and get into it. But
Right.
they kind of like the Right Back to It reminds me of something that like John Prine, like would have done, kind of like those kind of vibes. Like obviously him and like Iris DeMent or him and Bonnie Raitt,
Yeah.
like frequent collaborators. But John Prine is like one of my favorite musicians ever. I got into him luckily before he died, but
Yeah.
too late to see him perform live.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah, I feel like that. It's like that type of country. It's like there's a whole genre of pop country. This
yeah,
is like that kind of like old school country a little bit.
I know. I love it. And I again, I know that it's like, there's also really good pop country, I suppose, but like
Yeah,
that's the kind I like. I just like that energy.
for sure.
I like that feeling. And I really
Very
like,
very like peaceful, like and like like slows
yeah,
down
it calms your brain down a little
for
bit.
sure.
Even if sometimes Waxahachie's lyrics are like gnarly,
Yeah,
but she's also like kind of, it's not a long walk from some of that stuff Waxahachie's doing now to like what Taylor Swift is doing now either.
for sure.
And I was able, like, I started playing that Waxahachie album, like Dana and I were on a road trip. She's a huge, she'd be the first to tell you, she does not like, she really likes show tunes.
Uh-huh.
She really likes Taylor Swift, and she really likes like the pop girlies.
Yeah.
That's like her favorite kind of music.
So it was a good year for
Um,
her then.
Great year for her. She would have like Sabrina Carpenter on this list
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
like all that stuff. But I played the Waxahachie album for her, and she was like, "Oh, this is great. Like, what is this?" And I
Mhm.
told her, she was like, "Oh yeah, this is like a lot like, it's just a lot like Taylor Swift in like a very
Sure, sure.
flattering
The
way, I think."
folklore type stuff.
Yeah, the folklore type stuff. Yeah, I like the Waxahachie a little bit better, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's I think speaks to her universality.
for sure. Yeah, that's definitely one of my
Um,
favorites of the year.
and then I really like, this isn't my favorite album by her, but it came out this year, the Arouge Aftab album.
I haven't
You know
actually
of
listened to that
her?
one, but I've heard a lot about it.
Really, really good. The her previous album, so Night Rain is the name of the one that came out this year.
Okay.
Um, and her album Love and Exile, which came out in 20, I guess I'm using this to talk about a previous album, but the
That
new
works.
one's really good. She has such a beautiful voice,
Uh-huh.
really beautiful like guitar player. And this one is like like, I don't know, it's good airplane music. Like
Sure.
really good, like letting your, and I spend a lot of time on airplanes. Letting your like brain drift off. It's very like chilled out and kind of like gloomy
Hmm.
and roomy and like spectral in a really fun way. Like her music is all kind of like that. But Love and Exile, which is an
Okay.
album she did with a couple other people whose names escape me, and then Vulture Prince, which came out I think 2 years ago. She's released an album every year.
Yeah.
Um, just like if anybody hasn't listened, really, really like just a very strong recommendation.
I feel like there's
Uh,
a level of kind of musician that almost like when you listen to it, it's like it makes you feel more creative. Is that would you just say that's the type of artist?
Definitely. And it's also like a lot of the time she sings not, I think she's Pakistani,
Uh-huh.
maybe Pakistani American, but like a lot of the times, especially on like Vulture Prince, she'll sing not in English. And that
Sure.
like lets your mind wander a little bit more in a way that does help you be more creative.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm the kind of I can't work to lyrics. Like if I
Yeah, I
can't
agree.
write
I'm with you.
anything, I just can't do it. Um, but it's just so beautiful. It's the kind of music that like you fall into in a way that you don't even realize you should be impressed by how
Yeah.
impressive it is.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
it's
It
just
feels
so
like natural.
it feels like walking into a forest. Like
Yeah.
you would never walk into a forest and be like, holy shit, it's amazing that all these trees and plants are here.
Right.
It's gorgeous. Like you don't think about how all the miracles it took to get you to this place that you're standing.
Unless you're
Uh,
like tripping, and then maybe you are thinking of that.
right. Yeah, actually that, yeah. I should listen to her album on
Trees
mushrooms.
are
But
crazy, man.
I mean, that is the best thing about mushrooms, where you like sit there and you're like, I don't fucking appreciate trees enough, dude.
Right. You ever think like
Oh,
veins in your hands are like little tunnels like the car's going through? It's like crazy.
would you ever think about, now this is a very mushroom thought that I actually had, like if you look at like a map of your like vascular system and you
Oh
see a
yeah.
tree without leaves on it, where it's just like like a branch with
Uh-huh.
branches coming off of it, and that has branches coming off of it, and
Got
that
me
has
looking at my
branches
hand now.
forever. Yeah, we're not all that different, us and trees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's a Rouge Oftav's music.
That's your starting five. There's your Kendrick Perkins rounding it out.
That's my Kendrick Perkins. Although that is I would
That's
love to see her on ESPN like 15 years later, just saying
yeah.
the dumbest things we've ever heard in our
Yeah.
lives.
Oh, awesome. That's great. That's a good solid five. Thank you for putting that together. Yeah, it's
Of course,
a good
yeah.
list there. Um,
I've also I like the probably the album I've been listening to the most isn't from this year. It's the it's the Big Thief album, the Spud Infinity one.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can
Whenever
listen to
that's
Big Thief all the time.
holy shit, it's so good.
Yeah.
When it Dragon, I guess that's 2 years. Dragon New Warm
That was
Heaven, I
like
believe.
the bluegrassy one.
God damn, it's good.
Yeah.
I love it
Yeah.
so. It's that's another great airplane one. Like, but that song
Uh-huh.
Change that it starts off with will that'll make me cry like one out of every five
It's a
times.
long album too. Like, so
Real
you get
long.
some time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'll get you to Pittsburgh. Yeah.
uh, so the other half of this coin, you are a major. Oh, there we go
Fucking
again.
cord. I'm sorry about that. It's the lamp in this room is not plugged in well.
Lights out. That
Lights
was
out.
signaling the transition of
What the fuck?
the show.
All right. I'm gonna hold the microphone back
You're
here
going
because I think
back. You're
I'm
leaving
rolling over
back.
a cord. Yeah. All right.
Uh,
Sorry about that.
oh, you're good. The other
Yeah.
half of this coin is definitely that you are a huge Blazers fan, and I feel
Yeah.
like are maybe you might be I feel like, are you like associated with the Blazers? Like, are you like the Jack Nicholson of the Blazers? It kind of
I
feels that way.
I think so. And I think that will remain for as long as you know, Amine wants to let me have
Uh-huh.
it.
Amine, and then what? You got Ty Burrell.
Ty Burrell, although I associate him more with the University of Oregon than
Okay,
I do with the Portland Trail Blazers,
sure.
although he does go to games. But yeah, there's not really like, yeah, it's probably gonna be Amine. Like in the long run, like is there,
Right. You
he's
gotta hold on
loves
to that
Portland.
spot.
I'm holding on for dear life. I've done stuff with the team.
Uh-huh.
I think I rep the team maybe harder than any of the other like public facing Trailblazers fans do.
You gotta.
It's me and Kate. Honestly, who it is Katie Lang, and she doesn't get enough credit.
Oh, interesting.
She lives back up in Canada where she's from, but
Hmm.
she's a Trailblazer fan, a Canadian Trailblazer fan, like
All right.
like everyone west of Calgary
Yes.
should be. Um, and she reps really hard for the Blazers,
I
but
think the
it's
only other one I was thinking was actually a former guest, and that's I had Eric from Portugal the Man on.
oh, of course, yeah, dude, yeah. I mean, John too. Like the
Yeah,
Portugal the Man Boys go hard for the
they
Blazers,
do.
and they've done stuff. but they're from Alaska, and I've told them
It's
this to
true.
their face.
It's true.
But they've released like merch with the Blazers.
Yeah. I mean, Alaska doesn't
Uh,
have any teams. You got to throw them something.
I know, I know. I remember going. I remember I was on the Late Late Show. This was before because I've become like buddies with them.
Hmm.
Um, and this was before I knew them, but they were playing on the Late Late Show when I was a writer there, and I saw these dudes walking around with Lords of Portland jackets, and I'm like, well, you didn't fucking check with me. I don't remember
Yeah.
voting on who was
What
a
do we
Lord
have
of
here?
Portland. Yeah. Uh, and then it was like, oh, it's Portugal the Man, and then they were great on the show. I think they might have been doing that. What's the name of their big? My memory is so bad. The Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks, man.
I
You know that.
I'm really bad with song titles, so I couldn't. I know the song you're talking about though.
Yeah. What is Feel It Still? Feel It Still. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like a
Um,
honestly. I feel like the Blazers even kind of used that as an anthem for a little bit.
oh yeah, they definitely did. They definitely did. The fuck Portugal the Man had good like yellow, red, whatever, and blue. I remember
They
that. So American
they
too.
even like the early stuff was like kind of in that emo scene a little bit.
Yeah. They're great, dude. They're
They are
such nice people.
for
Like,
sure.
dude, they're like such nice people.
I think even
Uh
they even did like they performed and like Dame came out and like
yeah, dude, when they
during
were
one of their
doing the
shows.
McMenamin's Edgefield shows,
That's right.
Dame came out. I think they've hung out in the studio together too.
Wild.
Uh
That
yeah.
that's it right there. That's the
I
intersection.
There was that I think about it was either double or triple overtime game. This was what it was like the last time we beat the Nuggets in the
Yeah,
playoffs, but it was Dame, CJ, it was that Blazers, and they had Jokic, we had Nurkic. Um they had everybody. I guess they didn't have Aaron Gordon yet, but
sure.
we played them in the playoffs and we went to a double overtime game. I watched it with Portugal the Man because they were down here in LA recording their follow-up album to
Uh-huh.
the Feel It Still one, and they had like rented a house that they were living in not far from where I live.
Oh, nice.
So we all watched that game together. It was fucking great, man. I think they had
Awesome.
t-shirts made up too, just for watching the game. Um, but yeah, those guys are real deal Blazer fans. I would say
For sure.
if they like, I am honored to be included amongst the likes of them and I'm in a.
Absolutely.
I always here's another embarrassing story of like Portland. I was at the Emmys and I was hammered, and I think perhaps even on cocaine. And this was back when I weighed 400 pounds, and I was like sweating through this
Uh-huh.
rented tuxedo. And I had to go do my friend Brandon Wardell, who's a comedian,
Hmm.
is doing this show. And he's like a cool, I like bring him up because it was his show, and he's like a cool kid,
Yeah.
like other cool kids like him, and he's friends with Amine. Amine.
I always want to say Amine, but I don't think that's it.
I don't think it is either. I think it's
Yeah.
Amine.
Yeah.
Me. And like, so I was backstage, pouring sweat. Brandon had also booked his ex-girlfriend on this show to do a PowerPoint presentation about their relationship. She was like a performer too, but it was supposed to be like 10 minutes and it ended up going for 45 minutes. And I was
Uh-huh.
supposed to follow it. And I was hanging out backstage and I saw him. And he was like big, but he wasn't like as big as he is now. He hadn't
Right.
done like the New Balance shoes or anything like that. And I was just like, oh, sick, another dude from Portland. And I walked over to him and I said, oh, I said his name wrong. I'm like, you're Amane, or like whichever one is not the right one.
Right.
You're from Portland, man. You're great. It's so nice to meet you. And he's like, if you thought I was great, you'd say my name right, and walked away. And ever since then, I've been living in horror
It just replays in your head.
over and over. I'm like, fuck, man, I blew it. Now I like if I see him at a Blazer game, I can't ever, like say hello to him. It's also like Portland's ambassador to everyone younger than 35.
Right.
I can't, I just fucking blew it so hard. He's also
I
completely in the right. I said his name wrong. Like, what a schmuck.
but at this point I feel like now you got to really fight for that top spot because
Absolutely. Yeah.
embrace it.
I got to get back on camera, dude. I've been spending too much time writing this last year. I got,
Right. Yeah, for sure.
but I blew it in front
So
of him. Yeah.
I mean, going back with the Blazers, like when you were growing up, I'm curious, when's the first time you thought like, yeah, basketball rules?
Probably like 1990. So I was born in 1984. I'm 40 years old. I went to preschool at this place called the Middleman Jewish Community Center. And the Blazers used to be owned by this guy, Harvey or Harry Glickman, who founded like the Meyer and Frank
Mhm.
department stores, which are no longer
Okay.
around. But anyway, he's a Jewish guy. And back when he owned the Blazers, instead of building a practice facility, this was back when like no NBA teams had practice facilities, like, like the
Right.
Bulls would practice at like Loyola or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the Blazers practiced at the Middleman Jewish Community Center.
All right.
So I would be going to like preschool downstairs and upstairs, Clyde Drexler and Jerome Kersey and Terry Porter and Kevin Duckworth, most importantly, my favorite player, um, were practicing, and you would see them because there
That's
wasn't a special
insane.
entrance. There was like
Right.
there was just the entrance to the Middleman Jewish Community Center. And like on one court, so it was one of those basketball situations where they would have like three courts with those big tarps in between them, right?
Right.
And the Blazers would be on one court, and then the other two courts would be like a bunch of middle-aged Jewish guys running pickup games. Um, but you would see like Kevin Duckworth gave me a piggyback ride once. I
What?
remember, yes, because I loved him so much. He was
Yeah.
like, I think he probably wasn't used to being anyone's favorite Blazer because this was the Clyde Drexler team, and like
Right.
people love Terry Porter too, but he was my guy. That was my
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so you got to meet all of them. Like my dad, I don't, I can't guarantee you that this story is true, but I'm 90% sure it is because it's been verified by Dwight James, who's a guy who's written about the Blazers for like, 40 years.
Sure.
Um, so David Kahn, who would go on to become an NBA executive and draft Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio before Stephen Curry for the Timberwolves.
Great.
He
It's a great
used to be
legacy.
what a legacy. He started that journey as a sports writer in Portland. So he wrote
Okay.
about the Blazers. He wrote for the Oregonian, and he used to play in the pickup games at the Middleman Jewish Community Center. And he would write hit pieces about all the Blazers, which honestly, like Dwight James would go on to do that and stuff too, especially like
Sure.
the quote unquote jail Blazers team.
Yeah.
Um, but David Kahn was doing it early on like the Rip City teams. And my dad and him got into a scuffle on the court, like
Oh.
over, I don't know, over loose, like somebody throwing elbows. And like nobody liked David Kahn even then. My dad punched David Kahn in the face. And he swears this is true, that Clyde Drexler came up to him in the locker room at the Middleman Jewish Community Center and said, "Man, we've been wanting to do that for years." I, it sounds like a big fish story, and I guess
Yeah.
there's a chance that it is, but like I choose to believe it's true. But this
Absolutely.
is true. David Kahn then went on to say that the Blazers got beat by Charles Barkley, and then David Kahn wrote they got beat by I think that it was 76ers at the time. He's
Mhm.
like, Charles Barkley he was playing so well, he could have beat the Blazers with it could have been just Charles Barkley and four guys named Ivan. And my dad's name is Ivan. So he like
Oh,
got
it adds a little bit of lore to the story, and I appreciate it.
little bit of lore. So it was impossible. Like I love the Blazers, like
Yeah.
from the point I was capable of having memory. Like I loved them. My dad was a big Blazer fan, is a big Blazer fan. Like my mom is a big Blazer fan. I would
Mhm.
make little like cardboard or construction paper cutouts. I would make like paper dolls and send them into the team. I like
Uh,
like they were
I
like,
mean,
oh,
they're
like
practicing at your school. How can you not?
how could you not? They were like
Yeah.
my heroes. So I
Yeah.
got into it then, and like honestly, it's never wavered like since
Right.
then.
That's
And
amazing.
they were great. They were in the
Yeah. It was
finals.
a good
They were
time.
like they've been good most of my life. The Blazers
That's
have been
true.
like a great team. They haven't won the championship, but they've been a great team to root for because for a while they had like the longest playoff streak in the NBA,
Yeah.
and then they missed for like a year or two, and then got Damian Lillard.
Is
And
now maybe like the most down they've been in?
yeah, this is the longest sustained down period in
Because because
Trailblazers
let me.
history
I'd
of
like
my
to
life.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to know what you think. Is there an end in sight?
Shaden Sharp is amazing.
Yeah,
And if he can
he's really
stay
good.
healthy, that's a great dude to have on your team. I am a fan of how they've constructed what they've got going on right now. Like
Sure.
I'm a little bit worried about Donovan Clingan because while he like is one of the best shot blockers in the league and he's only playing like, you know, 17 minutes a game. He's amazing. He is so slow-footed that I
Yeah.
worry that like you could really take advantage of him on switches and like any faster center is going to be able to sort of like get around him and get to the basket or get him in foul trouble.
His stat line
Um,
yesterday was ridiculous. Wasn't
19
it like
rebounds, 0 points.
0 points
Yeah.
and like 3 blocks,
He's
I think.
he's he's phenomenal, but
Old school.
super old school. And
Yeah,
and like I don't know that he gets faster. If he can become smart enough and know like where he's supposed to be on the court,
sure.
that's great. And also, like, I mean, if you he can play against the Timberwolves because he can play against Rudy. He can play against Jokic, you know, I
Hmm.
mean, as to the extent that anyone can play against Jokic. Like he can play against slower centers. But
Against
also
fellow draft member Zach Eady, who is like very similar in play style.
absolutely. Yeah, he can play Edie too.
Yeah.
And but also like I don't know who would have been better to take at that position. Like
Yeah.
I was Stephon Castle drafted yet? I can't remember.
I'm not sure if he was drafted yet, but he's had a nice showing.
Really good showing. But like Tumani Kamara is fantastic. I worry about Scoot
Yeah,
a
it's
little bit. He's finally like changing speeds and getting to the basket. Here's the reason I'm not ready to give up on Scoot, even as being like a superstar. It's because he
sure.
was at the G League Ignite and he's a true point guard.
Yeah.
And the G League Ignite eats talent and shits out like chaos.
Yeah.
It's
It's not the
just
solution to 1 year in college.
it could not be a worse situation, I think, for
Yeah,
like developing players. Like
I think so.
honestly, if Scoot had have gone to like Virginia, I think he would be like a year ahead in like development or something
Yeah.
like that. But you can't begrudge anyone getting their money. And that was like a year before I think the NIL kicked in.
Right.
Um, but I feel good. I feel good. Um, I have recently started to realize I'm like, I turned 40 this year, and I always assumed they would win a championship in my lifetime. And now I'm like, oh, or will they?
Clock's ticking.
The clock is really ticking. I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, man, I'm a lot healthier now than I used to be, you know, but like, I don't know, like if I got 40 years left, like the previous 40 only really the closest we got to the finals twice,
Hmm.
but you know, we lost to the Pistons in one, and maybe we could have won that. And we lost to the Bulls in the other, and there was no way we were winning that.
Right.
Um, although maybe in the second apron era, it'll be a little bit easier. I
Maybe
don't,
if you
you know,
get Cooper Flag, is maybe you can get there.
maybe. I
Are
don't
you
know
that
if
bad? You're not
Cooper.
that bad though.
No, that's the problem. We're
Yeah.
like, we're a pretty talented basketball team. We're
Right.
like a pretty good, really bad team. Um, which is a frustrating thing to be. I think we would be in
Yeah.
fifth place on the Eastern Conference. Right now, we'd be ahead of or no, like up until last night, we would have been ahead of Damian Lillard's Bucks. Um,
Which
which
they're a whole different kind of shit show.
they should be sending fucking Joel Embiid like Venmos every day for keeping them out of the news. They're like, it's not good over there either. And those are two
No.
situations where I'm like, I don't really know how you make them better. At least the 76ers have Jared McCain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel pretty good about the Blazers. I think Joe Cronin is a good GM. Like I really think he's done a good like Delano Banton was a great
He's
like
nice. Yeah.
got him off the scrap heap. Tamani Kamara, great like second round pick in the draft. Like that dude
Hmm.
is legit. So I think he's a good drafter. I like that. I don't know that we ended up getting a great return for Dame, but I'm glad that he didn't just send him to Miami in exchange for a bunch of dudes who on like Jovic is not having a good year. Tyler Hero is having a great year, but like we would be even more fucked if he was on the Blazers right now because we would be like
Yeah.
exactly 500.
Right. Yeah. And
Um,
Tyler Hero's just it's not my guy. I struggle to like him.
I feel the exact same way. I also think he's like I think in the second apron era of the NBA right now, like almost the worst kind of dude you can have on your team. Even
Yeah.
though these guys are like without a doubt good basketball players, is like the Tyler Hero, Zach Levine, Bradley Beal. And I'm gonna throw Trey Young in there too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
kind of dude who like you have to pay $60 million a year because he's so good,
But
but
then you can
you'll
also kind of never be satisfied.
never ever be satisfied. My
Yeah.
friend Zach Harper just texted me and said Elfrid Payton has 20 assists tonight, which
Which they just signed him like 3 days ago.
3 days ago. That's crazy. 20 assists, good. The fucking Pelicans,
That
dude. Thank God I'm
lineup
not a Pelicans fan.
was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Eve's
Like,
Missy, and it was like the most recognizable name in that
yeah.
lineup.
Like they signed Peyton that day and he was in the starting lineup.
God bless him. Well,
Amazing.
I don't know if he was back at like UL Monroe or like wherever
Yeah.
wherever he went to school. Yeah. Um, that's crazy. The poor
Yeah.
Pelicans, dude. Poor CJ.
It's weird. It's weird down there at the bottom. There's the and I'm a Bulls fan and we're not even that bad. Like we're not that fun to watch, but we're still not even that bad.
You're kind of in the Blazers zone,
Yeah.
except with fewer like young promising players.
Yeah. I
Although
mean,
I mean,
I really
Kobe
like
White is
Buzelis.
younger. Yeah, and he's a Chicago boy too,
Yeah,
right?
he's really fun to watch. And
Yeah.
Phillips too, Justin Phillips. Like
Oh
he's
yeah, true.
pretty interesting. But Levine and the whole Lonzo saga, like there's too many things. Like you gotta hit the reset button.
You got to hit there like a like that's what the Blazers didn't do was a clean
Yeah.
break because they rolled the dice on DeAndre Ayton, and I understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I'll get into like NBA 2K mode in my head where I'm like just all young players, and it's like
I'm the
okay,
GM.
that's
I know what to do. I know what I'm
yeah.
doing.
And also just like throwing out the idea that like it's good to have Jeremy Grant around because he has been an NBA player for a long time, and like
Sure.
it's nice that Shaden Sharp can learn from that kind of person,
Yeah.
and uh but at the same time, then you end up kind of betwixt and between, like where the
Right.
Blazers are right now.
I feel like where you are right now with Scoot is where I was a couple years ago with Patrick Williams.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
hope for better for you.
me too. I really do. He's he's getting to the basket more. He like
Yeah.
most of his shots are
He's
coming at the
fast.
rim. He's so fast. He's
Yeah.
developing in a way this year that is very promising. But in the context of what happened last year and not in the context of what we thought was going to be happening when we drafted him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just have to hold out faith. I think they're going
Yeah.
to be okay. But a lot hinges on who they pick up in this
You gotta
draft
hope.
and how Shaden Sharp, is able to stay healthy.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
gotta keep the hope. Otherwise,
You got to keep the hope.
why be a fan?
Yeah. And it's
Um,
just a fun experience. I went and saw him. I saw him at the Intuit Dome down here in LA, and they beat
ah,
the Clippers. It was great. Scoot had a
beating the
good game.
Clippers is always fun.
Love beating the Clippers at their new arena. And fuck, what's his face? Their owner
How
was
is that
down there.
arena?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to hate it because I hate the Clippers because I
Right.
hate all the LA teams except the Dodgers.
Sure.
But it's great. The Intuit Dome is amazing.
It's like a
The app,
playground.
is it what
Is it like a playground,
it is
basically?
a little bit. It's like very small and compact. The app is one of the most frustrating. They make you download their own app to get
Oh,
in. And it's so frustrating at the beginning. Like I had to reset my phone 4 times and I had to uninstall it like
interesting.
twice. And I don't know how like anyone 50 or older is supposed to like not to be ageist, but it's like,
Sure.
what if somebody just wants to their grandpa? What if some dude what if Billy Crystal wants to go see a fucking Clippers game, right? Like, I don't know if he can figure it out.
Could you please go to the app store, sir? Like, I need you to get it real quick.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
But once you're in there, like, and again, they're harvesting your information, and that comes with its
absolutely.
own like issues. But you load your face in there, and the entire like
You scan your face in there?
you take a picture of your face. You don't have to, but like I
Okay.
did it because I was like, fuck, I don't care. Like
Right.
the internet has my face. Um, and you walk in, and like it's like those stores at the airport where you just like when you go to they only have one kind of food store
Okay.
and they all have the same kind of options. It's not
Sure.
like if you go to a Blazer game, there's like, oh, there's bunk sandwiches or there's,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
kind of pizza um, from like local shops.
Hmm.
It's all the same. It's all like the same hot dog and chicken Caesar wrap, and they're all 6 out of 10 stadium foods. They're fine.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
But everything in that place, and there's bathrooms everywhere. Everything's designed to get you back in your seat, and the seats are roomy, comfortable, and there's not a bad seat in the house, and the wall is cool. And I
Okay.
was there the night the Dodgers like won the World Series, so it was
Yeah.
like half full. The Clippers were getting beat by the Blazers, so that it was not. But and yet still, the wall was chanting and doing like choreographed dances and
Uh-huh.
everything. And I was like, you look ridiculous right now, but I bet if the Clippers were good, this would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
So interesting. Yeah.
it's great. The arena's awesome. It's like
Okay.
small, it's built just for basketball. It's a great place to see a game. It's also in Inglewood, so it takes like 90 minutes to get there, which from where I
Sure.
live,
Yeah.
which is difficult on a
Brutal.
weekday. Yeah. But great. It's awesome. If every city like does that, just builds a basketball arena
Yeah.
for their next one, I think everybody will be really happy.
Well, I hope that the future of the Blazers it pans out. I like the Blazers. I feel like they've always been, everyone has their like their second teams. The
Yeah.
Blazers are definitely always one of mine. They're just like always such like a cool team.
We're twins. We're twin flames, the Bulls and the Blazers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back
Which
to the
I
our
hope you
video
don't
game that we
hold
did
hold
together.
it personal for back in the day, but
The only thing I held personal back in the day was all the people in Portland who were rooting for the Bulls because they
oh,
like all the kids at my grade school who like loved Michael Jordan, and I'm like, we
I
have Michael
mean,
Jordan. His name's Clyde
but
Drexler.
but also like
It's hard to blame them. It's the most like electrifying athlete in American history, but
right.
not here. Not
Yeah.
here, not Detroit, and I guess maybe some neighborhoods in Cleveland. And that's where we don't root for Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Um, I guess Utah, Phoenix.
I guess there's a lot of places that kind
Okay,
of
a
hate
lot of
Michael
places you
Jordan.
shouldn't root for Michael Jordan. But like I hated those kids. I was like, but no, I
Traitors,
would
man.
never, I don't hold my wife is from Chicago. My wife is from Highland Park. So
Yeah, yeah.
we grew up rooting for the Bulls. She had
Love the
no
Bulls.
no idea how good she had it. I've
Yeah, yeah.
since drafted her into Blazer fandom,
So
dooming her to a life of misery.
right. So the last thing I like to do is a fun little game, and let's go back to Blazers of the past.
Yeah.
And I like to. It's called musician matchups. So let's create a comparison for these players to a musician. Like,
Yeah.
and you can whatever ridiculous answer you have, whether it's their career arc or play style, or if they just how they look, whatever. We'll compare our answers because it can get silly, and I love it.
All right. I'm going to do my best here.
So yeah, we'll start it off with a legend in his own right, Zach Randolph, Zebo.
Zebo.
What a guy.
Ah, what a guy. I'm trying to think with Zebo. Like his time in Portland was so interesting
Hmm.
because he went on to become like beloved in Memphis,
Yeah,
and like
he was
after
a
he
late
went from us to
bloomer.
New York and then became like beloved in Memphis.
Yeah.
So it has to be someone who like made a lot of stops and wasn't great, was good,
Hmm.
but not great in their like first stop. You know what? I'm gonna compare Zach Randolph to the aforementioned Father John Misty.
Oh,
His time
okay.
with Fleet Foxes happened in the
Uh-huh.
Northwest, and it was good. It was really good, but did not hit his stride until a couple stops later,
Sure.
where he started making very beautiful, very
Kind of strange
kind of
music.
strange, yeah, kind of strange, beautiful music.
He's a
Um,
quirky dude. So
he's
yeah.
a he's a quirky dude after a couple of stops. The first one was good, but like
Uh-huh.
didn't get him to where he wanted to be. It obviously wasn't the right situation for him. Maybe it was a little too twee
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for what he was looking to do, and that fits Portland to a T.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, he was also so honestly the first thing I always think of with Zach Randolph is when he was on the Knicks. And there was this one play that just I don't know why it lives in my head forever, but he had the ball and he was like going up the court and he was trying to go ISO, like, and he
yeah,
should not be going
no,
ISO, like, and
no,
he was crossing over and shot the deepest three ever and completely airballed it.
perfect.
And it was just like I, everyone was just looking at him like, what are you doing?
He's not. He's nuts. He was a great basketball player
Yeah.
who was only
He got
eclipsed
there
by who he
eventually.
thought
Yeah.
he was. Yeah. Yeah. When he calmed down, he just needed to
Yeah,
be that grit and grind team was so much fun.
for sure.
And I'm glad he has a place where he's like beloved because I think a lot of people in Portland kind of forget he was ever on the team
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
weird way.
I
Yeah.
I feel like he is a little goofy. So for my pick, he is good, but he
He
has a
is.
little bit of this like goofy tone to him. So I went with Mac DeMarco.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
He's
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of
Yeah. I
like,
like it.
he's like when you listen to him, you're like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then you actually like see him, and like when you see him live too, like he's like kind of like you're kind of strange dude, aren't you?
They kind of look the same. They kind of have similar faces a little bit, you know, like
Just
I
like
think,
inverted hair. Like Mac DeMarco's got the long hair and
yeah.
Debo
And
has none.
Zebo has none, but like a little bit of like, you know,
Yeah,
like a little tooth gap in there. A
yeah,
little,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's a great pick.
This is just a weird kind of silly dude, but he's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Um, the next player on our list is also a little maybe it's kind of similar territory ish, maybe, but it's Bonzi
Yeah,
Wells.
Bonzi, dude. Okay, this is
What a guy.
what a guy, Bonzi Wells. He will get buckets.
He like honestly, surprisingly so. Like I haven't thought about Bonzi in a while, and when I was coming up with this list, I went
Yeah,
back and I forgot he dropped like 45 points in a game once.
dude, he could fill it up. I think people
Yeah.
forget. I think there's something about like there's something about the name Bonzi Wells where you're like must have been a defensive
Yeah.
specialist or something
Or
like
Smush
that.
Parker.
Yeah, but no, he would fill it up. He was great in college.
Mhm.
He could pour it in. A lot of like could really God, this is such a fun exercise.
Yeah. It can be challenging for sure.
Bonzi's like an especially challenging one.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think the next two should hopefully be a little easier.
The next two are a little bit easier, but Bonzi is like
He's definitely like a niche player.
he's super niche. I think his best time was probably in I mean his best time was probably in college at Cincinnati.
Right.
Um fucking
What's
Bonzi
Bonzi play?
Wells. Hold on, I'm gonna give you a good name. I am scrolling through musicians right now.
Yeah.
Uh oh, wait a minute. Okay, hold on.
His his best years were definitely in Portland. He got traded in the middle of the season to Memphis, but he was in run. I mean, he was ranked in sixth man of the year that year, 2003.
Yeah. He Do you know the band The Men?
I've heard of them. I haven't heard them, but I've heard of them.
I'm gonna they had this song called Open Your Heart to Me, which is like it goes real hard.
Okay.
It goes real hard. And I'm gonna make him very specifically the song Open Your Heart. Off the
Perfect.
album Open Your
Yes.
Heart by The Men, which I'm looking now, came out in 2012. Um, because it's real, it's kind of loose, it's
Mhm.
kind of messy, it's kind of thrashy, which Bonzi's game could be like
Sure.
that. I don't know that I've heard any other albums by this band, which kind of fits the Bonzi Wells of it
Yes.
all.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't really know what else he went on to go do, so I'm gonna stick him with that. And
I
I think it fits.
yeah, this honestly makes me want to like, should I make like a Bonzi Wells highlight reel and use that song?
I think you should. You should at least listen to the song. It's
Yes.
a great song. Yeah.
Oh man, amazing. So my version of Bonzi is actually kind of I do feel like the role of him as a player was similar to Zebo.
Yeah.
So in a similar way, I was like a very good band. He was kind of unpredictable a little bit, I feel like,
Yep.
in what you're gonna get out of him.
Yes.
Um, but he has a little bit of goofiness to him, I feel like, in personality wise as well. Um, so I went the band Y. I don't know if you've ever listened to that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's like Yoni Wolf.
That's a Cincinnati band, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Synchronicity.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Eccentric. A little eccentric too.
Yeah.
So yeah, had them. That's a good meld there. I feel like very similar to the reasoning for Zebo
He
there.
also just found out for sure that the girl he has a crush on is a lesbian. So he has he can relate to exactly what they're going through.
Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah,
Um, okay, yeah, the third one on the list is he's a legend, Brandon Roy.
the natural, the greatest.
I've heard also one of the nicest dudes.
By all accounts, I never got to meet him. He was like, by the time his career was cut short in Portland, it was like we didn't sync up, but I've heard super nice.
Yeah.
What an amazing basketball player. Uh Gave us some huge moments. Like the fact that we got to have, see, as a Blazer fan, like some people, especially when like that Heat thing was going down and people were like, you never won a ring, you're a poverty franchise, like all this bullshit. And it's like, well, okay, well, I mean, we won one ring in 77, but like, I don't know, man. I got to watch Brandon Roy and Damian Lillard,
Yeah.
as an adult. And that's I kind of really can't ask for more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's so smooth. He's so good. And his career was cut tragically short. You know,
There's some dark options again.
I know. Okay, this is gonna feel weird. This is a weird comparison. I'm gonna call Brandon Roy Modest Mouse,
All
which
right.
maybe, and here's why. Because when, this is, when Isaac Brock got sober, they continued touring and he
Yeah.
needed to get sober, and that's wonderful. And I'm very happy he did.
Yeah.
They did lose something in the music. And also he just got
Sure.
a little bit older, right? Like
Uh-huh.
they stopped being so Modest Mouse's greatness was unsustainable.
Yeah.
And Brandon Roy, who had no cartilage in his knees, his version of alcoholism, his greatness was unsustainable. But it's a Northwest band. They're from Issaquah, Washington. Brandon Roy is from Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Modest Mouse moved to Portland. Brandon Roy moved to Portland. They did their best work in Portland. And gave us a truly amazing, sometimes heartbreaking,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes he was breaking other people's hearts moments. But like in my opinion, the It's on Ice, all right, into what is the song it goes? Styrofoam Boots.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the most sublime moments of music I've ever heard in my entire life.
Those first few albums of Modest Mouse are just they have a special place in my heart for sure.
Me too. Like that's kind of like I was in high school and they would play like the Crystal Ballroom, like these all ages shows, and you would
Uh-huh.
go. I remember seeing La Savi Fav
Ooh,
open for them. I forget it was
damn.
some band, and then La Savi Fav, and then an hour and a half of the same Rod Stewart greatest hits CD. And then eventually I saw him a few times and like I
Yeah.
got some really great shows. And then that one was one where it was like, oh no, like this, he's in no shape to be performing. But
Right, right.
um,
That's a good comparison though.
so I think, yeah, like it was the greatness was absolutely unsustainable, but oh my God, when it was there, and if you were there, never been more sublime than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get that. Um yeah, so my version of Brandon Roy, I was tempted to go the dark route and be like
Yeah.
Jeff Buckley or something like that.
Right, right.
Uh but Brandon Roy is still with us.
Yes, he
um
is.
so for that reason I went with it's still the similar arc, but Neutral Milk Hotel.
Oh yeah, for
I just
sure.
feel like, we only got really a little bit, but it's so good.
What we got is amazing. That's
And
a
you just like
great pick.
you can't help but think like, what is the future? What would they have done in the future?
Yeah.
What
Oh,
is
that's
like
really
if
good.
Neutral Milk Hotel puts out an album in like 5 years ago? Like, what does it sound like?
Do the Blazers win the championship if Brandon Roy stays healthy? We very briefly had Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Greg Oden on the same
Yes.
basketball team.
And honestly, you never even got to see. I feel like Brandon Roy at his peak. I feel like he was
No,
not even close to the best he could have been.
no, he would have kept getting it. Like he was also, it's so tragic. Like he was very athletic, but like that
Yeah.
was not what his game was predicated on. And I think that's part of why, like, maybe they thought it would work. because he was just so smooth, and like such
Right.
great change of direction. Oh man, he
Another
was so
reason
good.
we can probably commiserate. I feel like there's a lot of similarities between Brandon Roy and Derrick Rose.
Yeah, Dev. Although, like, I guess his game was so physical, right?
Yeah,
Because he
yeah.
didn't come in with injury problems, did he?
No, not at all. It
Yeah.
definitely it was like a freak accident because of how hard he went.
God damn. And like Brandon Roy, like came in and we were like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. You knew there was
whatever you get
potential
is,
brewing.
yeah. But yeah, again, like such a great player cut too
Yeah,
short.
for sure. All right. So let's move on to the final one then. And
Yeah.
that is the man himself, Rasheed Wallace.
The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah. I mean, truly.
Yeah, Outcast. He is my favorite Blazer
Yeah,
of all time. Damian Lillard had to occupy that seat for the last few years of his time in Portland,
of
but
course.
once he left, he got bumped back down below Sheed. Um, damn, a musical comparison. It feels like lazy to be like the old dirty bastard or something like that. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like it feels like because he was so when he was locked in, he was such an electrifying music. I want to be like the Who. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Keith Moon. He had like he's the Who because he had like Keith Moon in him.
Keith Moon in
You
particular
know?
is an interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Like he had that self-destructive quality in him, but then at the same time, like could produce some of the most beautiful, ahead of its time stuff that feels like like you call him Missy Elliott too, because
Yeah,
like his
yeah.
game was so ahead of its time.
Right.
Outcast, like this stuff where it's like, oh, this still feels like futuristic 10 years later.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
like if Rasheed Wallace was like coming out of, North Carolina right now, people will be like, oh, this is the number one pick. Like the way
Yeah.
this guy plays is amazing.
I feel like the
Um,
the Keith Moon sort of thing is like it's almost like his recklessness made them better.
for sure. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And people fucking hate. I like
Yeah.
he was such a fun dude to root for when you were a kid because he was like I wasn't especially authority challenged.
Yeah.
Um, but like all of the adults were like hated Rasheed Wallace because they saw him out there getting technical fouls
He's
and
not a role
screaming at
model.
people, not a role model. But like me and all my friends, like all the kids loved Rasheed because he was great, first of all, and then he was just so like electric on the court.
Right.
Yeah, I have like my entire garage, which I've had to like since take down because we're having it renovated because
Mhm.
we're having a baby and we have to whatever. I have like 6 different pieces of Rasheed Wallace art. Like,
Yeah.
in my garage. Just because if I see like if like somebody was like, oh yeah, I painted Rasheed, I'm like, I have to have it.
Uh-huh.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite. He's just
You
the
can
best.
give baby the first Rasheed Wallace jersey.
He already has. He has Blazers gear already.
Oh, oh yeah, got it.
I got him like a rubber duck that has a Blazers jersey on it. There's a Rasheed Wallace, Todd McFarlane starting lineup.
Start him early.
He's ready to go. I have one. I will accept anything that my child wants to become, except a Laker fan. He is going to be a Trailblazer fan, and like I feel like one of my main duties is to make sure they're happy, safe,
Yeah.
healthy, supported, and a Trailblazer fan.
Your child might grow up not knowing that the Sonics were ever gone for a period of time.
They might not know. They may have missed the entire thing. Who knows? However long it took their soul to get back into this new body,
Yeah, yeah.
they never had to know that Kevin Durant, could have been a Sonic.
Right. It won't look weird when you see a picture of Kevin Durant in a Sonics jersey.
God, what could have been?
Um,
In a way, I'm kind of glad they moved. That would have been hard.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That would have been hard to deal with.
Oh man. So yeah, I feel like Sheed is kind of a little bit everywhere. But I
He's.
like the Who comparison
I'm
because
landing on the Who. I'm landing on
yeah.
the Who. Like a person who like could completely destroy himself and also make like Baba O'Reilly.
Right, right.
Yeah.
My pick for him was actually you might have played your cards a little early. I went with Isaac Brock.
Oh, did you? Oh, that's
Yeah.
very good. That's
Yeah.
very good. Yeah.
Because, obviously so good. The
Yeah.
Portland connection is obviously there, as you mentioned. Um, he had it, early, especially early on, he had a bit of a temper. He was a little
Yeah,
unpredictable.
yeah.
Um, and that those, like I said, those early Modest Mouse albums are like so strange and erratic, but like something about him is just like
They're
I like
so.
you.
I remember the first Modest Mouse song I ever heard. It was like Shit Luck. It was the skateboard part. I was at my friend Graham's house, and I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
And he was way cooler than me, so I was like, "Oh, this is Modest Mouse." And then like
right.
we got into it from there. It's so
Listen to
good.
Trailer Trash and Cowboy Dan, and yeah,
Cowboy Dan is so good.
yeah, so good.
I swear to God, like I had one of the worst relationships I ever had in my life, and it was one of those ones where like the breakup took 3 weeks, and like if we finally like she moved down to LA and then moved
Mhm.
back up to Portland, and like all this shit happened, and I was like crying driving around Southeast Portland, um, just like after we like cut it off for real and had like the long talk, and I was listening to the Lonesome Crowded West.
Yeah,
And that song at the end, I mentioned about the styrofoam boots, It's on Ice, All Right.
right.
Like there was something about when those drums came in on it, like that, because it's like that, It's on ice, all right, like for a while.
Yep.
And then that that just gets faster and faster and faster. It was like it sucked the relationship out of me. Like by the time it was over, I was like over the relation. It's like
Feels good.
the magic of music, where I
Yeah.
was like, and then I went to like dinner with my sister and my dad, and I was like, I'm all right. I'm glad, it's good that it's over.
Right.
Pock Pock, may it rest in peace.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great comp.
Yeah. So that's musician matchups. And dude, that's all I got. Dude, it's been a great pleasure talking
Yeah.
both music and hoops with you.
Thank you for
Um,
having me. I'm so glad I finally got to do it. It was a blast.
for sure. And I know you got a bunch of stuff going on. Is there stuff you want to kind of talk about?
Oh, listen to All Fantasy Everything.
Yes.
Uh, you can listen to Emotional Hoops, a basketball podcast I do on Patreon with my friend Zach Harper and my friend Isaac Lee.
When I first
Uh,
saw you announce Emotional Hoops, I'm like, is this like a emo basketball? Is this for me
Sometimes it gets
also?
emo. We saw what you were doing, and we were like, "How can we
Yeah.
make it more about Taking Back Sunday?" Um, it's shit. It's like $5 a month, and we just do like an episode every week and talk about basketball. And
Yeah.
like, I keep wanting to figure out a way to make it free, but it's hard to find a network. I don't anyway,
Yeah.
but if you like, you can listen to that.
Yeah.
And then I'm writing a bunch of stuff for Nikki Glazer right now. And then just got a bunch of stuff like behind the scenes going on. So
Hmm.
just support good live music and good live comedy.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to have
And
anything to do with me.
your book as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, T-shirt Swim Club, a book I wrote about growing up fat and being a fat adult and losing weight a little bit, and uh, co-written with my little sister, who's a clinical psychologist.
Yeah.
So I write a chapter. It's like a memoir, and then after every chapter, she comes in and writes from like sort of a clinical psychologist point of
Right.
view.
Right.
Yeah. You can get it from your library. You know what I mean? Like you can get the audiobook, you can get it from your library, you can buy the book if you want. But yeah, I think especially like if you're like a fat person out there, and if you're especially like a fat dude, I know I've heard from a lot of people who it sounds self-aggrandizing, but I swear I don't mean it like that, because go steal the book. I don't give a fuck. But
Yeah.
it's like I was able to talk about a lot of stuff in there that I think not a lot of dudes have talked about, like in book form or
Yeah.
publicly or in any way like that. And sometimes it's good to know you aren't alone in
Hmm.
in a variety of feelings. There go the lights. Um, so yeah, T-shirt Swim Club is the name of that book.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh yeah.
it. Yeah. Go
As
see
a
Shane Torres perform.
there you
He's on the
go.
road all the time.
Awesome. Well, dude,
Yeah.
thanks again for coming on. It's been a ton of fun.
My pleasure. I'll see you soon.